It's war in Kiev, but the circus is in town. Clowns from all over the world were out in force on the streets of Kiev last weekend to cheer the people up. Bumble Johnson, a funny man legend in Great Britain, was quickly in jovial repartee with Ukrainian clown Zelensky. The comic duo then settled down to the serious business of planning more crimes against humanity and pinning them all on Russians. Even as a treasure trove of the best used rusty old military equipment is on its way to Ukraine, so we can all buy new weapons from America. Yes, it's a funny old world in Kiev where murderers roam the streets while clowns and puppets entertain. Come back soon. 11th of April, 9 Eastern. It was a sickening display that played out indeed in Kiev over this weekend. War crimes have been committed, and we're looking at those who have been committing them. It's not going to succeed. This time it's different. This time we have evidence. This time they will face judgment and hopefully justice, as Andrei Martynov explains.
They probably better run because they will be hunted down and brought to the War Crimes Tribunal, which hopefully will be set up in Donetsk instead of Moscow, because Russia doesn't have death penalty. Donbass, they have their death penalty, and many people deserve to be hanged or shot, what have you, because the body of evidence which is collected is going to shock the world. When this War Crimes Tribunal starts, which it will now 150%, we're going to be treated in the worst possible way to some wowzers, which will make, even SS officers probably, pale in comparison, because what they are committing there is just absolutely horrendous.
So don't be sucked in by the propaganda politics of the latest atrocity, because the vast bulk of the war crimes which have been committed and which are going to be the subject of war crimes investigations sponsored by Russia and other nations, and perhaps leading to judgment and justice, is going to focus on what's been happening over the last 8 years of relentless war crimes which have been committed by this cabal. And the tentacles of responsibility lead back to the highest levels of politics and intelligence in the Western Alliance, in NATO, in Washington, in London, and elsewhere. And that evidence is being and has been collected.
And the full answer and the scale and the scope of this problem will be given once war tribunals begin to operate. I can guarantee you that. You can quote me on this. That will be a wowzer, because there will be many people. Many people already are singing like birds, including from the point of view, we know who Mr. Nalivaychenko, former SBU guy, was, Security Service of Ukraine, who basically was responsible for, he was a CIA asset, and he was the guy, for example, who was starting this program of training the Nazi battalions, by CIA advisors, and he himself being, the asset. So it's all there. It's all remarkably documented. And of course, unlike Syria and or Libya or Iraq, Russia has a damn good space satellite grouping and state-of-the-art signal and human intel. And so that is not the issue of bombing Afghanistan into the, well, they were already there pretty much, but into the Stone Age. But I mean, this is completely different game, and that is why they are so hysterical. I mean, because and especially now with the biological weapons de facto being admitted by none other than Victoria Nuland. And that's all just the start. And suddenly we have this perspective, I would say, not completely unusual. I wrote about it, that a war crimes tribunal will not just limit itself to Ukraine. There will be many people who will be indicted, and those people are in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And that's the totally different game. And they totally miscalculated in terms of the actual weight, Russia's geopolitical, military, economic weight, when they understood that, oh my gosh, you poked the bear, you got the bear. Okay.
In southern Ukraine, there has been a liberation by Russian forces. And here you see scenes in recent days from Volnovka and distribution of food taking place there. People coming out of a nightmare which has lasted 8 years, culminating in recent weeks and ending now in liberation for them. RT journalist Roman Kosarev still finds it difficult to speak of some of the atrocities he's witnessed perpetrated on the people of Donbass.
I saw, it's really hard to talk about it. I saw a woman. She later I found out she was 19 or 20 years old. She had her hands tied behind her back. She was pregnant. Her belly was pretty big. She had her hands tied behind her back, and she had a bullet hole in her head. So she was executed, basically. And I saw that grave. So these people, as they were retreating, I mean, they have a policy of scorched earth.
Residents of Donbass who lived under such scorched earth policies have put on a public exhibition to document some of the atrocities to which they were subjected. The more harrowing cannot be seen but are in the links. The most serious war crimes are not those committed in the heat of battle, but those designed in the cold calculation of planning. And the leadership of the entire Western Alliance has been embedded in this war crime planning apparatus. The unfortunate innocent people have been the meat in a political military sandwich which has been prepared by the Western Alliance / NATO.
They knew, even NATO instructors and NATO advisors, they knew that United States cannot really, Ukraine cannot really stand up to Russia. So the only last-ditch tactics was to counter as much as they can and then collapse everything into the cities. And if you look at the eastern, you look at Donbass, you look at Kharkov, you look at Mariupol, all those cities and conglomerates of the cities and villages are nothing more than fortresses. In Russian, it's called Ukrep Rayon, which is the reinforced region. And this is like one huge, fortress of using civilians as the human shield. It's unbelievable. It is straight out of ISIS playbook, and it's playbook by CIA and MI6. It's not just simply war crime. It is a crime against humanity. And
that interview with Andrei Martynov comes thanks to Eva K. Bartlett, who's currently on the ground in Donbass, documenting the war crimes and providing the footage you saw also. Thanks. This is not the fall of the West. This is the fall of the cabal. We invented the whole thing recently, and we have so much to offer, and we will again. This is the fall of the cabal, not of the culture. Okay, I'll be back with more soon. Hope you can join me for that. But perhaps we should go out with a little swan song for this comic duo and their bloodstained hands. And I'll be back with more soon, as I say. Hope you can join me for that. In the meantime, for breakfornews.com, this has been Fintan Dunn reporting. See you soon.
A soldier is the girl who adores a parade, and she loves to see her soldier play his part in the grand cavalcade. the girl who loves a soldier is in love with the right kind of man. When he says, fall in, my darling, well, she falls in his arms while she can. She simply can't refuse him. Oh, how she'd hate to lose him. For the girl who weds a soldier is the girl who adores a parade. She becomes herself a soldier. She's a part of the grand cavalcade.